Hi, my name is Billy Thaxton. That's Ash. That's actually that's Ashley Kenyon, Spencer Wood, and Joshua Young, and we are the impact resistant car cover testing group. Who's doing background?
Yeah, I can do that. Okay. So for the background, this experiment is originally for like the senior design project that we've been working on. But for this, we had decided to test to see which car cover can deal with the impact of hail and see if it protects like the car from getting damaged. So for this, we decided to use tarp, nylon, and bubble wrap for the materials for this test. And to uh, test the impact, we used the impact drop tester from Martinez lab. And um, we did 4 different trials for each material and tested to see which one had the most force impact. From this, we can use some energy equations to find the velocity and the energy. And yeah, this test is used so that we can conduct like a, a safer way to create a cover for cars from any impact damage such as hail and other debris. The original test was going to be that to use like hail as like the impact test, but the weight of the impact tester itself uh was too massive for it to work. So we decided to just test on whatever impact could cause the car to get damaged.
So for methods, like Josh said, our material, we kind of sandwiched our material together. So you can see in the picture here, we had bubble wrap in the center, which is labeled by 1, and then we either wrapped or nylon or tarp around the bubble wrap, and we used just normal steel by itself with nothing on top as our control. So we were able to perform 12 different tests, 3 different heights for each material. So we made 12 tests. And we used this drop tower here, and you can see that there's like a clamp that holds down. We have on the bottom, which is marked by 3 in this picture, is the steel plate. And then 1 and 2 is the sandwich of materials that we used on top of the steel plate. And this apparatus is dropped, and we chose 4 different heights, and it's dropped onto our material. For our safety risk, it's very minimal. We had a tool that we used to drop the apparatus, and there's a box outlined around the drop tower, and that was just so you made sure you were far enough away from the drop tower. And before we ran each experiment, we made sure we looked around that no one was, too close or not paying attention, and we made sure that everyone was aware that what was happening. For our schedule, we made a Gantt chart in the beginning of the semester, and we've pretty much followed it through pretty well.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, this is our slow-mo video from the drop tower. And here again, you can see the material sandwich. I believe this was the nylon one.
I think that one was the super sandwich sample.
Oh, okay. Well, this was maybe just for video purposes, I guess.
Still interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think you have to pause it and then click
Okay.
outside of the box.
Hold on. Okay.
So what Ashley said earlier, we formed different tests at different heights. We had 4 separate heights that we used as our variables, and we tested 3 samples each for those said heights. And what we were recording was the force of impact on each of the plates, as well as the distance from the drop tower to the plate itself. And going through our analysis, as you can see with the force versus displacement graph, we noticed that the test samples with the tarp had absorbed more of the impact energies compared to that of the nylon and bare metal samples. Interestingly enough, like it kind of intertwines with the nylon samples as it kind of goes down, but you can kind of see this trend of the tarp samples as it being as it absorbs more compared to the other two samples. And then afterwards, after we've analyzed the force versus displacement, we went through each of our test samples and looked for the deformation within each of the plates. So how we did that was we took height gauge and we measured where the sample was struck, and we measured that deformation from the top of it to like the base as best as we could. Interestingly enough, for some reason, we had the bare metal have the least amount of deformation, and despite having no protection from like the tarp or the nylon whatsoever. Our assumption is that the plate was not properly secure enough on the test apparatus to where, as it impacted, it kind of bent the whole plate itself. So that's one of our assumptions as to why the way that is. And one thing you kind of notice is as the heights get reduced, or as the forces get reduced, the nylon actually has the highest or the least amount of deformation. And here is just our kind of overall data of what we got from each of the tests. As you can see, like the first one here is like the forces, the displacements, and the deformations. And for each one of these, we calculated the standard deviation, the uncertainty percentage, and just an overall average of each of the properties shown. Going through like the uncertainty with the force, that's kind of to be expected. We tested a different materials that kind of absorb the material, so there'd be a bit of a difference between each of the test samples. So that's why you kind of see the uncertainty percentage is noticeably much higher than that of the displacement and the deformation samples. But as we kind of move down in force, that uncertainty starts to reduce a bit. It starts to get kind of more, I want to say as close to zero as it can, but it's reducing in a constant at a decline. Going to displacement, the uncertainty from like the first sample, which was at a higher height, that had the most uncertainty, but as the displacement kind of lowers, it remains constant throughout. And then same thing for, well, but for deformation, it's a bit inconsistent, but it's inconsistent. Yeah. So that concludes.
So for the conclusions, the plates that we quote protected actually showed more deformation. This is likely due to the entire plate deforming instead of just the small area that's being impacted. You could see, or any future work, we should look at increasing the number of samples to try to get more repeatability analysis, and a better method of actually securing the edges of the plates should be obtained. At the bottom, you can see kind of on the left there, you have the sample that is not protected at all. And then in the middle, you have the nylon, and on the right side, you have the tarp. One of the interesting things you can note is that the no protected sample, the point from the impactor is actually a lot sharper than it is on the protected samples, but the protected samples, the entire thing is actually bent.
I think, is that the last one?
Yep, that's the last slide.
Alrighty.
Stop recording.
That concludes our